All right. For those of you watching at home, you have, because here they have the chart, you have the chart for social studies today posted on Schoology. So you can print, once it pulls up, you can print this chart off, or you can just kind of copy something similar down into your notebook so you have it's just columns. And then I have over here the different colonies we're going to learn about today. Okay, so you can copy that into your notebook. For those of you that have the chart here, you're going to fill in this chart as we go along. And then you have posted, if you need to go back later to watch it, this Middle Colonies video, which is what we're going to do right now together. So you had a colonies video on the New England colonies that you did. This one is on the Middle Colonies. So these Middle Colonies, we good? Assignment, we got notebooks out, pencils, and our charts? All right. These Middle Colonies started as very large colonies, okay? And then they kind of break them apart into smaller colonies, and that's what we're going to learn about. So the chart you have in front of you, which is similar, right, to the chart that you did last week for Chapter 5. So Chapter 5, Chapter 6, and Chapter 7 each cover the different colonies, the 13 colonies. Okay, so we're going to add 4 more colonies now to our, we had 4, I think, last time for Chapter 5. Okay. So this one's laid out a little different. We have who found it, we have why they found it, and we have some other facts we're going to list because these colonies have some interesting facts we're going to learn about. So this is that same Mr. Z that goes through. He covers a lot of Lesson 1, which is why we are reading Lesson 1. We will have to go in and pull some things from it, but for the most part, he gives us a lot of the basics that we need. Okay, so we're going to watch this. I'm going to pause it periodically so we can write some things down, so we can talk about some things. But you're watching, listening, and filling in that chart. And when I stop it, we're going to see what kind of information you filled in, okay? Let's make sure I have volume turned up, because that's helpful. This is not on. Turn that on. Yeah, this is muted. Ooh, maybe.
Is to do a very brief intro.
All right, let me pause it one more time here. I'm going to make it bigger. It doesn't want to work when I make the screen bigger. That's weird. And now it's frozen.
To the stories of 4 of these original 13
All right, so
colonies.
he's just going over the chart you have in front of you.
Take those stories and decide who is the founder of each of those colonies, and then why was that particular
And then I
colony
added the
founded.
other facts.
Are you ready?
Okay,
All right,
here we go.
let's get started. The first colony that we're going to talk about today is the colony of New York. Now, the first European to explore this region was a man named Henry Hudson. And Henry Hudson was an Englishman, but he was actually sailing for the Dutch. And what the Dutch decided was that this region would be an excellent place to put a trading post, a
so
place
it is
where
not
merchants
gonna
could
let me
trade with
pause.
Native Americans for.
All right, so I'm going to stop it here. It's not letting me pause it very well. So what do I need to write down in my chart so far? Canyon?
The founder is Henry Hudson.
Right, so this New York colony, the founder is Henry Hudson, and he was an Englishman, but who was he sailing for? Juliana? Right, but he was traveling and sailing for the Dutch. Okay, so the Dutch initially take this colony. Okay, it's not called New York at the beginning, and he's going to talk some more about that. Okay,
Wait, so what are we gonna write for why founder?
nothing yet.
Oh,
Okay,
Furs and pelts. And this trading post is going to become
That's what you're gonna
the
write
city of New Amsterdam. Now, in New Amsterdam, everyone was
Nope.
focused on economics, and that led to some pretty interesting unintended consequences. Specifically, because everybody was focused on trade, they were not paying a lot of attention to what religion you were. As a result, in New Amsterdam, you have Catholics, French Protestants, and Jews who are all allowed to buy land in this city. Now, by the way, this city of New Amsterdam that we're talking about is eventually going to become known as the city of, do you have a guess? That's right. It's going to become the city of New York. Now, therefore, you might wonder, how is it that we have what will be an English colony that starts its history as a Dutch colony? Well, the answer to that is it's not handed over to the English lightly. In fact, it has to be taken by.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it here because we got a lot of stuff we've just taught that he just gave you. He gives you a lot of information. He gives it to you quick. Okay, so New York. I'm gonna go over what you're gonna write down. Right, New York is our colony. Henry Hudson is the founder, so we have that written down so far. He's an Englishman, but sailed for the Dutch. So who owns this colony right now? Not necessarily Henry Hudson. Who? The Dutch, right? So the Dutch currently have it. What did the Dutch call this city, this place? Adam? Right. They called it New Amsterdam. So that's something you're going to want to write in other facts. Now in our book, they refer to it as New Netherlands. Okay, I'm going to travel over here. I don't have my chart, but that way we can see what we need to be writing. Okay? New Amsterdam. So, New York.
Other facts all the way at the side.
Yep. This is your founder, was Henry Hudson, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think, what's the next column? Why founded. We'll get to that in a minute.
And then other facts.
Okay. Other facts is my next one. So here we want to write was New Amsterdam.
Wait, in other facts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I put New Amsterdam equals New York.
And in our book, they call it New Netherlands. So you're going to want to write that down there, because in the book it refers it to the colony as New Netherlands, the city is New Amsterdam. Okay. You guys probably need to come closer here.
Is that an L for the Netherlands?
Henry Hudson. So this is founder, right?
And then why found
Y. Facts. No, this is a parentheses.
Oh.
Okay, so you want to know that New Amsterdam and New Netherland were kind of one of the same, I guess you could call it, could say. Okay. This is Henry Hudson. All right. Now, let's think back to why. Okay, what were they after? What did they want? Sean?
They wanted to trade.
Right, they wanted the trade, right? The fur trade. They were worried about economic opportunities there. So here you could say fur trade. What does economic mean? Economic opportunities. There we go. So that was why they founded it. What's economic mean? Riker? Whatever's in your mouth needs to go in the trash. Thank you.
Economic maybe means
Place's economy is what? Indiana's economy is,
area.
what's that?
Area.
Not area. So Indiana's economy consists of, I would say, farms, corn.
Land and
Okay.
water.
What is corn and farms, dairy farms, and all of that stuff? You could even say somewhat the steel industry, right? Up there, way up north. What do they do for us as a state? Sean?
Sell stuff and make money.
Right, they make money, right? They provide jobs, they provide opportunities for people, right? People to work, because what do we need to buy stuff?
Money.
We need money. So your economy is how you're going to survive, how that place is going to make the money and provide the jobs for a different place or area, okay? So they're looking at fur trade. That's what they were going to do, okay? Whatever is in your mouth goes in the garbage. Garbage. And now it's garbage. All right. So we have New York, and they're going to tell us over here a little bit more, I believe, about New York. So, let me get this situated again. Here we go. And I'm going to hit play. We're going to listen, see what else we can learn about New York.
The English and the Dutch at this time are colonial rivals. The English are jealous of this successful trading post that the Dutch have created, and so they send warships into the harbor. At the time, the Dutch didn't have a chance of withstanding an attack from the English, and so they had to hand over control of this colony to the English. So what started out as the Dutch colony of New Amsterdam is going to become the English colony of New York. Now, that's the story of the colony of New York. But the colony of New Jersey has a shared history with the colony of New York. So I'm going to tell the story of these two colonies together. As we already know, this region started out under Dutch control, and then the English come in and take over the colony from the Dutch. So now the region is under the control of the King of England, whose name is Charles II. Well, Charles II actually hands over control of that region to his brother, the Duke of York, whose name is James II. So now James II is in charge. But James II actually decides that this region is too large for him to administer over himself. So what he does is he breaks off a piece of that region, and he gives that piece to two of his friends, Lord John Berkeley and Sir George Carteret. So now...
All right, we're going to stop. A lot of information again, right? So what happened to New York? So New Amsterdam was owned by the Dutch, right? The English come in, they decide they want that colony, they win it because the Dutch just cannot defeat them, okay? And it becomes New York. So King Charles, right? King Charles owns this. What's he do? What happens? Nick? Gives it to his brother, who is the Duke of York. So King Charles takes this, then he gives it to his brother, right? The Duke of York. Okay, James. What does James decide? A lot of transfer of hands here. Adam? Right, he's like, oh, it's way too big. I can't control all of this land. Okay, I can't keep up with it, so I'm going to have to split it and make it another piece. Okay? So he gives New Jersey to who? Who founds New Jersey? Juliana? Yep, Berkeley and Carteret, right? Or what, I can't remember how he pronounces it. So we have Lord John and we have Sir George that are our founders for New Jersey. Okay? And I'm just going to put last names. Berkeley, Carteret, that's how I say it. Okay? So they get now New Jersey. Why did they get New Jersey? Why was it founded? John?
Because it was too big for...
Right. Too big for the Duke of York. Okay? So he separates that. There's a glare.
Wait, the Duke of York.
It's right here. And other facts, you might say it was part of New York, right? Was part of New York. That way you remember. Okay? So that's New Jersey. Draw my line here. Okay, if you're still writing here while you're watching, you can pause it. I'm going to travel back this way. All right. Few more seconds to write. Yep. Or you can always finish writing it down later. I'll leave it up there. I won't erase it. All right, let's keep going here, see what else he has to say.
This region that had been a part of New York has now been given to these two other guys, and that's going to become the colony of New Jersey. So even though they started out as all one region, eventually they become two separate colonies with two separate charters. So that's New York and New Jersey. Now, let's switch our focus and talk about another colony, which is Pennsylvania. And whenever you talk about Pennsylvania, you have to talk about a man whose name is William Penn. And inevitably, when I talk about William Penn, I have at least one student who asks me, Mr. Zoll, is that the guy from the Quaker Oats box? And I actually had to go look this up. The answer is no. The Quaker Oats guy is not William Penn, but William Penn was a Quaker. And that's why the two of them look so similar. Now you might wonder, well, what is a Quaker? Well, a Quaker is a religious group. Specifically, it's a branch of Christianity, and it was founded by a man whose name was George Fox. Now, the Quakers were not very popular in England at this time. And it's because many of the beliefs of the Quakers created a lot of friction with the other English citizens. Let me see if I can give you some examples. The Quakers believed in the importance of an individual's direct connection with God, which of course would downplay the importance of religious leaders. So that's not something that's going to make them particularly popular with the Anglican clergy, for example. They also believed that all people are equal before God. Well, that's not something that's going to go over very well with the English nobles. And they opposed war. They refused to serve in the army. That's something that's not going to make British citizens very happy. As a result, the Quakers were persecuted in England. They did, though, have one person on their side, and that was William Penn. Now, William Penn came from a wealthy family. In fact, he was a childhood friend of King Charles II. So he has what are, by all accounts, a very bright political future. That's why everybody is so surprised when he announces that he's going to kind of turn his back on this and become a Quaker. But William Penn decides he's going to leverage whatever political capital he has left for not only his own sake, but the sake of the other Quakers in England. And what he does is he goes to Charles II and he proposes to him that Charles create a new colony that would allow Quakers to practice their religious beliefs. And he kind of couches it as a win-win situation. He says Charles II has the opportunity to get rid of a bunch of these Quakers. These Quakers would be leaving England and practicing their religion outside of the view of the majority of Englishmen. It's also then an opportunity to help out his friend. Remember, William Penn was a childhood friend of Charles II. They go way back, and so this would be an opportunity to do his friend one last favor. William Penn, meanwhile, has the opportunity to create a new colony where Quakers can freely practice their religion. And Charles II says yes. He creates this new colony, which becomes known as Pennsylvania. And William...
All right, we're going to get to that part next in a minute. Let's first talk about, let's go back over here. So, Pennsylvania, who founded Pennsylvania? William Penn, right? I already wrote it in here. Pennsylvania, William Penn is our founder. So, why was it founded? This is what becomes important. Why was it founded? Why did he start this colony? Jackson? Right, it comes back to religious freedom, right? Quakers were not wanted in Britain at the time. Okay, the king didn't want them there, others didn't want them there, so this was a win-win. Why did they call it a win-win? John?
This is a win because they're making the Quakers in England, and for the Quakers, they're getting their own colony.
Right. So let me write this in here. So religious freedom for the Quakers for William Penn. So William Penn is being helped by the king, right? The king was his friend. So he's like, this is what I can do. I can go start this colony. I get to start a colony, but I'm also helping you out, right? Okay, I'm helping you by taking these Quakers out of England. So both parties were happy. The king is happy. William Penn is happy. Those that followed the Quakers' religion were happy. They had a place to go, and they could do it without being persecuted or shamed or expelled or whatever was happening. Okay?
Miss Long,
Yes.
technically the Quakers couldn't be like chained up without King Charles staying them.
Well, and if he doesn't like the Quakers' religion, right?
But wouldn't he have to because his friend was in it?
He doesn't have.
Well, no, like he wasn't necessarily originally
Like,
always.
I know,
He decided
I
to
know,
go that way.
but,
That's
like,
what they said in the video.
Didn't he like it though?
Didn't who like it?
The king.
No.
He didn't?
This religion that what the Quakers were following, no. That's what they were saying. He was not a fan of that. They didn't want them there. So William Penn says, this is what I'll do. I'll take them, I'll make a colony, and they can go there. They'll leave England, they'll come here, and then they won't be in your area anymore. Riker?
So if the people shamed William Penn and so the king would say no because they're friends?
But the king didn't say no. What did the king say?
No, I mean like if
But that's not how it happened. Let's focus on how it did happen. Let's not mix other things in and then confuse everybody. So William Penn, yes, was a friend. The king said, yes, you can make this colony. It's helping me. I'm helping you. We're all good. Okay? That's how it went down. That's how we get Pennsylvania. Okay? William Penn was also a person who not only religious freedom for Quakers, but just about anybody. So he wanted justice for all of those. What does justice mean? That was a vocab word. What's that word mean? Maya? Fairness. So William Penn wanted fairness for everybody, Native Americans included, okay? Whatever religion you wanted to practice, Native Americans, he felt everybody should be treated fairly and with justice, okay? So you might want to add that note here to William Penn. Treated everyone fairly.
Now we need some facts.
Treated, yeah, you can put it in other facts, but we're going to add something else over there. Treated everyone fairly. Okay, let's go. I'll let you write that down. If you need to write it down, hit pause. Otherwise, we're going to come over here and we're going to find out about this first draft of the frame of government of Pennsylvania. I think in chapter 5 we had talked briefly about self-governing. What does that mean? You are self-governing. What does that mean, Maya? Right, they're making their own freedoms, right? They're creating their own government. Okay, this is another representation of that. Them creating this representative government, the self-governing, okay? They're learning. They're creating these things to have the rules and laws that we see some of them still even today. Okay, we don't call it the frame of government of Pennsylvania, but some stuff comes from here. Okay, let's see what they have.
And meanwhile, does his part. He drafts a document called the Frame of Government of Pennsylvania. And that document outlines the religious freedoms that the colonists there are going to enjoy. In fact, William Penn refers to this colony as a holy experiment. What do you think of that phrase? What do you suppose he means when he says a holy experiment? Think about that for a second, and when you're ready, unpause the video and we'll talk about it. And we're back. All right, what William Penn means is he wants this to be a place where Quakers can practice their religion, but not just Quakers. He wants it to be a place where Protestants, Catholics, Jews can all come together and practice their religion without fear of being persecuted for their beliefs. Now, write that down.
We're good.
And then
We
we'll go
talked
on.
about it. We're going to move on here.
All right. Now, William Penn's beliefs were pretty different from what we see in many of these other colonies at the time. In fact, he went beyond just allowing other Europeans to practice their beliefs freely. He also believed that Native Americans should be treated with respect. He spoke
I
out
jumped the
and
gun.
promoted the fair treatment of Native Americans, including he believed that the colonists should pay for land that was taken from Native Americans. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you suppose that means that all encounters between Pennsylvania colonists and Native Americans were peaceful?
no.
The answer to that question is, of course not. That would be unreasonable. We can't assume that all encounters are going to be peaceful. But we will see less friction in Pennsylvania between the colonists and Native Americans than what happens in many of the other colonies at the time. There's one more colony for us to talk about.
We're
in
going to
this
stop
podcast.
that for just a second.
That is
All right, we'll get to Delaware here in a minute. I want you to go to your, if you can, your PDF for lesson 1. And you're going to look on page 229, and on page 229 it says a new plan of government. I want you to find, I think there's three freedoms that William Penn included in his frame of government. I want to know what the 3 freedoms are.
What page?
229. When you find the 3 freedoms, for those of you watching, you can post them on updates. Those of you here in my class are going to tell us in a couple seconds.
Is it chapter 6?
Chapter 6. Lesson 1, page 229. You are going to have to skim and scan and see what freedoms, there's 3 of them, William Penn included in his frame of government. I'm going to wait for a few more hands. You're still looking. It's probably halfway underneath a new plan of government on page 229. It says in 1682, Penn wrote the frame of government of Pennsylvania. This plan of government set up a legislature called the General Assembly. It also gave citizens, and it lists the freedoms. Give me one, Wyatt. What was one freedom? Freedom of religion, which we definitely can see, right, from all of the information we've gotten so far. Okay, so I'm going to write up here frame of government. Frame of, and I'm going to abbreviate government G-O-V. Okay. And the freedoms they had were freedom of religion. If I'm writing this down, what should you be doing? Writing it down. Okay, frame of government, freedom of religion. Give me another one. Brendan? Freedom of speech. These should sound somewhat familiar, I hope. Freedom of speech. And one more. What's the last one, Juliana? Right, a trial by jury. So trial by jury, you get that option before you're accused. Trial by jury.
What's the option?
You get that option. Okay, everybody should be given a fair trial by jury before you just say they're guilty. Okay? So we could even put fair up front here. So we can see William Penn was kind of a different leader, wasn't he? He believed in a lot of different things. And these, I hope, look familiar. Okay? These should be familiar things. Where are these? Where do we see these at? What's that? These freedoms. We have more than just those. We list a whole bunch. Where are they at, Maya? It's part of that. Your Bill of Rights, right? You get all of those freedoms. And like I said, there's more. We list a whole bunch. These are just some of them that he started with for us. Okay? Make sure we've got what we need there. Yep. So you're going to make sure you write those 3 down. Going too far. Traveling too far. Here we go. All right, so Delaware is our last one. We ready to learn about Delaware? Yeah.
Of Delaware. Now, Delaware begins its history much like New Jersey began its history as a part of New York. What we see in Delaware is that this document that was written by William Penn, the frame of government of Pennsylvania, is going to attract colonists from all over Europe, including a group of Swedish colonists, and those are the people who eventually will become the founders of Delaware. And much like what we talked about in New Hampshire, where you have a settlement that...
Okay, so who founded Delaware? It wasn't a person necessarily. Who was it, Jackson? Right, Swedish settlers. Okay, so it's people that were coming over from Sweden. So Swedish settlers founded Delaware. Okay, and Delaware, they're saying, started like New York and New Jersey. What do you think that means? Sean?
It was once a part of New York?
Not part of New York, but it was part of something. Adam? They didn't take it over. Because Because we have the English there already.
Those over time,
Let's find out.
as more colonists arrive, they're going to push further and further into.
I'm going to pause this again. This is something I've talked about. So you can see where on this map, it shows you what the current states today look like, right? And then highlighted here are what those colonies looked like then. So Pennsylvania didn't necessarily look like Pennsylvania today, then, okay? So he's showing you if they start here and more people come, they continue to push out, right? They're going to go inland, they're going to go north, they're going to go south, they're going to continue to make those colonies bigger and bigger because they need more space. And that's what he's showing you with this.
Interior as well as further up and down the coasts. That's what we see happening in Pennsylvania.
Water, land.
And so there's a part of Pennsylvania that's referred to
Pennsylvania.
as the lower counties, and we see that down here on the map. Eventually, because that area is located so far away from the capital of Pennsylvania, which is Philadelphia, William Penn allowed them to begin electing their own assembly, and eventually they're going to get their own charter and become the colony of Delaware.
So Delaware was part of Pennsylvania, and why did they decide to found it? What was the reasoning they gave us? Riker?
Because the more people came and then they needed more land for the people. So
They did.
They just kept traveling more from one hand.
They did. But why else? Juliana? Could have been. What did he say? Why did they decide this had to be its own? This is Pennsylvania. They talked about the capital. Sean?
Because it's way too far away of Philadelphia, the
Right.
capital.
So that colony of Delaware, what they called the lower colonies, was too far from capital. Which in this case was Philadelphia. Okay? And I will take this over here to show you in a minute. Okay, you guys are right. We're going to keep listening. We're almost done.
Those are our 4 middle colonies. Let's see how much of this information you were able to come up with.
I'm going to do this.
I hope you've enjoyed.
Oh, let's go back. So here we have his chart filled in. Now, I added a little more information. So here, they do say economic opportunities, but it also it was too far, right? Too big, it's too far, it's too much. Okay, so these are some things.
Why does it say Dutch colonies?
It says Dutch colonists. Okay, but we want to keep in there. You can add that if you want. We have Henry Hudson in there, but remember, Henry was sailing for the Dutch. So they initially started that colony before the English took over. Okay? So there's that. If those of you watching need to pause, go ahead. I'm going to show you ours so you can see what information we added to Delaware. Way down there at the bottom. Okay. And for other facts of Delaware, I left that one blank. Okay, we don't have anything we're writing there. We've got these here. You could add here economic opportunities. If you wanted. All right. That's that chart, so you can pause and fill that in. Okay, if you guys need it, it's up here still. This is on Schoology. And we're going to slide back this way. This video is on Schoology. Well, twice, I guess, now.
Not yet, not.
Well, this video that I'm playing is. The video that I'm recording isn't yet. And then today, aside from that chart, you have a Chapter 6, Lesson 1 Vocab People Places quiz. If you took your notes yesterday, you can use your notes. So there are
so easy.
vocab words and there are people. You're matching the vocab to the definition and the people to their description. Okay, it's a quiz. You're only using your notes. Okay, you're doing that as your assignment today. You do not have to submit the colony chart, but you want to hold on to that because those are your notes for later down the road. Okay? Lesson 1, Vocab People Places quiz.